Und da sind wir wieder bei The Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve von The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In der letzten Aufnahmesession haben wir den ersten Fall beendet, wo Susato Mikoto war, als Ryotaro Naruhodo im japanischen Gericht ihre beste Freundin Rei Membami, glaube ich, hieß sie, verteidigt hat. Und wir haben mehr Fragen bekommen als Antworten. Also Susato ist offensichtlich nicht in Japan, weil es ihrem Vater schlecht geht, wie zuvor angenommen, sondern aus einem anderen Grund, der irgendwas mit dem Fall, den wir jetzt spielen, zu tun haben soll. Und Kazumas Tod ist auch nicht bekannt in Japan. Der wurde irgendwie verheimlicht. Warum, weiß auch keiner. Die Fragen aus dem ersten Teil wurden auch noch nicht beantwortet, die restlichen, was aber auch nicht schlimm ist, weil das war erst der erste Fall. Ich denke mal, das kommt noch. Und ja, wir hatten halt den Vater gefragt, warum wir überhaupt in Japan sind jetzt wieder, warum er uns zurückgerufen hat, und er meinte, ja, kann er nicht sagen, aber Soseki Natsume, unser Autorenfreund, hat gesagt, er weiß das hat mit dem Fall zu tun, der nach meinem Fall war, wo ich auch involviert drin war, was uns dann natürlich die Frage aufkommen lässt, oder mir die Frage aufkommen lässt, spielt dieser Fall jetzt wieder im Zeitraum des ersten Spiels? Muss es dann ja, weil Natsumes erster Fall war ja im ersten Spiel, und ich denke mal, er muss zwischen Fall 4 und 5 spielen, weil Susato ist ja nach Fall 5 nach Japan wieder gereist. Also denke ich mal, haben wir hier jetzt einen kleinen Throwback. Ich bin sehr gespannt. Der Fall heißt, Load Continue wollte ich machen. Der Fall heißt The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro, was natürlich ein Throwback ist auch schon auf den vierten Fall von Adventures, The Adventures of the Clouded Kokoro, oder The Adventure of the Clouded Kokoro. Und jetzt in Resolve heißt es halt The Memoirs, also die Memoiren des Clouded Kokoro. Clouded war, also ich denke mal vom Kontext jetzt ist es klar, Kokoro war Herz und Clouded wortwörtlich bedeckt, getrübt, also das getrübte Herz. Okay, ich würde sagen, let's go. Und ich glaube, es kommt eine Cutscene, deswegen mache ich mich schon mal weg. Episode 2, The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro.
It was a ghastly tale of a winter's night. One of an invisible killer and a crime perpetrated on the pavement along Briar Road. As the victim lay at death's door, the mystery of just who had stabbed the young lady from behind had been resolved. But no sooner had my friend saved that Eastern exchange student from his harrowing plight than in the dim, flickering shadows of gaslight did a second bizarre crime rend the stillness of that very night. I dare say most can still recall the sensational headlines of the day. Haunted apartment of death, the condemned criminal's curse, the dread demon of coal gas. Yet, though the great detective had at once discerned the truth upon his arrival at the scene, it only proved to be the overture that announced the rising of the curtain on a most tragic play.
My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a fledgling lawyer, just starting out on my journey. 6 months ago, I arrived as a visiting student of law, having made the long voyage across the sea from the Empire of Japan to here, London, England. And on the way, in quite extraordinary circumstances, I made the acquaintance of a world-famous detective. Currently, I reside in the attic of the detective's own lodgings, from where I run my legal consultancy of sorts. I successfully defended a number of clients in Britain's highest court, the Old Bailey. But since a particularly grueling and unforgettable legal battle 4 months ago now, I haven't returned to the courtroom. In truth, I lost my right to return. But that epic trial was just one small part of an epic tale, a tale which was now about to awaken from slumber. Thanks to a letter that arrived this morning from my homeland. What a delicious smell, wafting up the stairs. Okay, ich klinge mich mal ein. Alles klar. Alles klar, er darf nicht mehr im Gericht auftreten? Warum darf er denn nicht mehr im Gericht auftreten? Ist er jetzt wie Phoenix Pianospieler oder was? Habe ich das jetzt so richtig verstanden? This morning in my homeland. My right to return, okay. Und nach dem Fall von Natsume, also nach dem am selben Tag von dem Mord ist noch ein Mord passiert und der Typ, der da gerade war, den haben wir doch auch schon mal gesehen, ne? Den haben wir ganz kurz gesehen in Fall 4, also dieser Prinz. Ich erinnere mich, okay, aber spielen wir erstmal weiter. What a delicious smell wafting up the stairs. It must be nearly time for breakfast. I'd better go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite and say good morning to the great detective and his flatmate. Okay, aber ich find's cool, dass sie diese Sherlock Holmes-mäßigen Cutscenes am Anfang der Fälle beibehalten haben. Die haben was Einzigartiges an sich. Also passt sehr gut in die Stimmung. 13th August, 7:28 AM, Sholmes' Suite. Da sind wir wieder. Ah, Bruno, good. I was just about to call up to you. The bacon's ready. Good morning, Iris. It smells delicious as usual. Before we eat, though, I have some news. I had a surprise this morning. Shh! Not another word, Mr. Naruhodo. Er ist back! Mr. Sholmes is back! Ich freue mich. This could be just the abstruse thing for my pre-breakfast stagnation, repelling mental stimulation, my dear fellow. Morning to you too, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes. I see. So that's it. Was? The truth is as clear to me as day. My faculties of observation have revealed it again. What are you talking about? You, Mr. Naruhodo, you have this very morning met with a surprise. Das hat er doch gerade gesagt. Well, is that not the case? Really, my dear fellow, it barely warrants explanation. Firstly, your hair is particularly unkempt, somewhat reminiscent of a bird's nest. Secondly, you have neglected to fasten the third button of your jacket. Clearly, when considered together, these two facts point to you having been flustered this morning. Can I talk now? But of course, though I don't look for admiration, you understand? My hair always looks like this. It's been this way since I first met you. Oh, it has? And the button was ripped off last night, if you remember. By you. Hurley pulled your button off? Ah yes, I recall the incident now. It was after supper, was it not? As the evening advanced, I picked up my violin and began to play the wailing notes of a haunting tune. But then, to my utter dismay, the third string snapped. Why did it have to happen? Why? Little wonder then, that in my vexation I grabbed the first button I saw and ripped it from its proper place. War deine Geige nicht auch schon im letzten Spiel kaputt? Well, I'd like it back now, please. It's troubling me that I can't fasten my jacket. And it's troubling me that you expect me to know where it is. Somewhere thereabouts on the floor, one presumes. Helpful. What matters at the present time, my dear fellow, is simply whether or not my deduction was unerring. But Hurley, Bruno said it when he came in, didn't he? I had a surprise this morning. Well, that really is a surprise. Yes, this man is the pride of the British Empire. The famous consulting detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, meine ich natürlich. There can't be a single person in the world who doesn't know his name. Alright then, enough of this silly conversation. Come and eat this bacon before it goes cold. And I have a new herbal tea for you to try too, my latest special blend. And here we have Iris Wilson, Mr. Sholmes' lodger and companion. A truly exceptional young girl, who's the author of a highly successful serialization here in London. Yes, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, as published in Rand's magazine. So, Mr. Naruhodo, won't you put us out of our misery? What surprised you this fine morning? Ah, well, I received a letter from Japan. Oh, hat Susato nicht am Ende von der letzten Episode einen Brief geschrieben an Rionosuke? Ich weiß es gar nicht mehr. Oh, from Susie you mean? Was it, really? That's right, and she had some rather startling news in fact. Ach ja, stimmt, sie hat ja gesagt, dass die Case-Files von dem Fall, der für sie relevant ist, im Büro sind. Intriguing indeed. You must tell us all about it over breakfast. Oh yes, what fun! Okay, converse. Miss Susato's letter. This is a letter that arrived from Japan this morning, by international post. Oh, how lovely! Look at Susie's beautiful writing. I wish I could read it. And how is your judicial assistant faring, may I ask? She's very well, thank you. In fact, according to what she's written, she actually appeared as a lawyer at the Japanese Supreme Court and won a case. Ah, really? Oh, isn't she wonderful? A cut above your good self, my dear fellow. I've won cases too, you know. Apparently, Mr. Natsume appeared in the trial as a witness. Natsume. No, I don't recall that name. Of course you do. We helped the man. Twice. You know, in those 2 cases that took place on Briar Road 6 months ago. Ah, the mustached, twitchy man with the somewhat feline eyes and the mustache. He didn't have 2 mustaches, Hurley. Ich dachte auch gerade, wie du das zweimal das mit Mustache. Yes, who could forget those 2 cases? They made a very deep impression on me. Although I must confess, the details are a little hazy now. Den zweiten Fall kennen wir aber nicht. Warum wurde er ausgelassen, frage ich mich. Da möchte ich eine gute Begründung haben in diesem Fall, bitte. A very deep impression they made on you. Clearly. Startling news. So, what was the startling news penned by Miss Susato? Do you remember the case of the haunted lodgings, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, yes. It's very interesting, you know. I don't feel entirely uncertain that the case of that nature did not occur. He's totally forgotten then. Anyway, in her letter, Miss Susato asked that we read over her case notes again and investigate further. Though it took place half a year ago. For what purpose? Because of something that Mr. Natsume said to her, apparently. He suggested that the real reason why she was called back to Japan so suddenly might have something to do with that case of the haunted lodgings. Oh. On Mr. Natsume's return to Japan, Miss Susato's father questioned him about the case, you see, she says. And something Mr. Natsume said appeared to trouble Professor Mikotoba, prompting him to send that telegram. Oh, that case, yes. It was very strange, wasn't it? Es stört mich gerade sehr, dass wir den Fall nicht kennen. Yes. And I had compiled the whole story into a nice neat manuscript ready for publication too. But then Hurley here was all funny about it, remember? He was very mean. Wait, das ist nicht die Story vom Hound of the Baskervilles, oder? Die Susato kannte, obwohl die nie veröffentlicht wurde. Dass es nicht der Hund of the Baskerville ist, oder? That story must not be published, you said, very mysteriously as well. Really? I said that? Are you sure? Do you perhaps know something about it as well, Mr. Sholmes? About why Mrs. Sato was suddenly told 4 months ago that she had to return to Japan? Mrs. Sato's repatriation, also from Patriot. It's been 4 months now since we waved Susie off at Dover. It was such a shock, wasn't it? The way she just suddenly announced that she had to go back to Japan. Indeed it was, due to a telegram she received from her homeland, I believe. That's right, telling her to return urgently. Yes, because her father had passed away. No, it just said he was suffering from a high fever, the cause of which was unknown. He is not dead. But according to this letter, that news about her father's fever was just a ruse. A ruse? A ruse, also wahrscheinlich Lüge, ne? Aber ich möchte die genaue Übersetzung. Ruse. List. Trick. Okay. Warum sagen sie nicht einfach Trick? So Susie's daddy lied to her that she'd make the voyage back home. Why would he do that? I have to admit, I have absolutely no idea. But she believes it's almost certainly related to the case of the haunted lodgings. Jetzt erzählt schon, was in diesem Fall passiert ist. Summoning her back to Japan so suddenly like that. I wonder what Mrs. Sato's father is hiding. Hurley, do you know what it's all about? Ah, well, who can say? Jetzt hat er plötzlich seine Detektivkleidung an. What? But you said... Please, I have engagements, my dear fellow. My calendar is quite surprisingly full today. And a stringent analysis of the matter would be excessive, I feel, even if I were quite at leisure. So, man the fort in my absence, won't you, Iris? I will, Hurley, don't worry. See you later! He scuttled off rather quickly there. Okay. I think perhaps Professor Mikotoba isn't the only person hiding something here. Soseki-san was involved in 2 cases, but only one of them was forbidden from being published. By of all people, Mr. Sholmes. Aha! I found them at last! Iris, are they... The notes about the case. That's right, Susie and I compiled them together. The case of the haunted lodgings. Do you want to read them, Uno? Absolutely. Thank you, Iris. I have no idea what secrets could still be hiding in the shadows of this case. But perhaps if I read over the notes again, something might come to light. That's the spirit. Okay. And so, Iris and I decided to read over the case notes again together. Everything from what happened to our investigation and that fierce battle in court that followed. Reliving every detail. I just need to find a clue, and I have all the time in the world. Because of course, I'm no longer allowed to practice law in the courts of Great Britain. Warum nicht? Warum nicht? Ich habe so viele Fragen. It was 6 months ago, a mysterious incident that unfolded on the wintry streets of London. A young woman was found lying on the snowy pavement of Briar Road with a knife in her back. Wir erinnern uns, der Fall Nummer 4. Fortunately, her life was spared, but she was unconscious for several days following the incident. The fog was thick and nobody saw her attacker, but by a cruel twist of fate, a visiting Japanese student was walking behind her at the time and was duly arrested. That man was Soseki-san, and the man who effected his arrest was Mr. Sholmes. Believing in our compatriot's innocence, Susato-san and I decided to represent Soseki-san in court. And after a grueling trial of many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence. Dass die zu diesem Fall nochmal zurückkommen. Ich fand den Fall gut, ich fand ihn interesting, ich fand ihn allein schon toll wegen Soseki Natsume, der mir jetzt echt schon ans Herz gewachsen ist. Aber es war nichtsdestotrotz nicht der schlechteste oder der schwächste Fall aus dem letzten Spiel. Deswegen finde ich sehr interessant, dass jetzt diesen Fall nochmal zurückkommen. A grueling trial of many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence. Joyful, joyous, jubilant jubilation was the man's reaction after the trial, but his jubilant jubilation was short-lived. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes the following morning. Aber waren wir nicht auch noch in den Escapades, haben wir doch auch mit ihm noch Japanisch gelernt. In den Escapades waren wir doch bei ihm auch noch und haben Japanisch gelernt. Und da kam auch nichts dergleichen zur Sprache. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes the following morning. The victim of the Briar Road stabbing has regained consciousness. Hurry to Bart's at once. So Susato-san and I summoned a hansom and headed immediately to the hospital. February 5:30 AM, St. Bartholomew's Hospital, Recovery Ward. Okay, also jetzt sind wir in der Vergangenheit, am Tag nach dem Gerichtsfall von Soseki Natsume. There you are, at last. Good morning, Mr. Sholmes. I think not. Oh! You're late. What on earth took you so long? Your telegram only arrived at 5 o'clock, Mr. Sholmes, and it's a 20-minute ride to the hospital. That's right, and it's 5:30 now. I think we made very good time. The time is utterly irrelevant. The fact is, I have been waiting for what has felt like an eternity. In point of fact, I myself was awoken at 4 this morning by a telegram boy, and feeling it was somewhat unjust that I alone had been roused at such an hour, I sent one to you. Well, thanks for that. Oh man. Anyway, you're here now, so the victim is over there. She's only just regained consciousness. You should introduce yourselves, and I shall observe from here. So that's the lady who was found in the snow, covered pavement with a knife in her bag. Her name is... Ah yes, here we are, Miss Green. Okay, was haben wir denn hier erstmal? Armband. An armband I inherited from Kazuma. It identifies the wearer as a defense lawyer throughout the Empire of Japan. Dann second-hand book receipt. A receipt for some books that Mr. Natsume purchased at the second-hand bookshop. Was submitted as evidence in the trial the other day. Genau, Bourbon Books war das, ne? Your Books. Bourbon Books wurde vom Inspektor gesagt, aber es waren tatsächlich die Your Books. 17th February, 4:45 p.m. Customer Mr. Natsume, the sum of 2 shillings tendered in receipt of the picture of Monsieur Lecoq, a meal for Gaborio and Canterbury Yearnings. Ich erinnere mich. Und nearby street map. A street map of the neighborhood where Mr. Natsume has his lodgings. It was submitted as evidence in the trial the other day. Genau. Your Books, Mr. Natsumes Lodgings, Bourbon Books und hier ist der Vorfall passiert. Beziehungsweise eigentlich hier. Weil da hat der Bobby das nur rübergezogen, damit er mit seiner Frau das Jubiläum feiern kann, was nicht so gut funktioniert hat. So, Examen machen wir erstmal. Look, there's a photograph in this frame here. Oh yes, it's a picture of a young gentleman. He looks to be about the same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think? My, Mr. Naruhodo, I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart. Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. Oh man. Hier das Michelin-Männchen. This rounded wooden figure isn't the most charming. Is it? Ah, I don't think that's a decoration, Mr. Naruhodo. It's an artist's mannequin, I believe. Used when practicing sketching the human form in different poses. Really? It's not exactly what you call a typical figure for that purpose, though, is it? No, I suppose not. I confess I've never seen one quite so full-figured before. Well, if you want to draw a full-figured person, it's the right tool for the job. Okay. Ah, this looks like the patient's treatment notes. Let's see. Do not feed. What is this place? A zoo? You know, I seem to remember seeing an almost identical sign in our local park. For the pigeons, yes. This is a person. Poor woman. I hope she hasn't read this. There are lots of bottles in that cabinet, aren't there? Do you think it's safe to keep them like that? Hehe, if you were a patient here, I feel sure you'd take some medicine by mistake when you were half asleep. That is a worry, but at least the cabinet has a lock, even if it's only a flimsy looking one. Oh, I've no doubt you'd managed to unlock that somehow while you were half asleep as well. There are limits even to what I can do when I'm half asleep, you know, Mr. Sato? Oh Mann. Okay, was haben wir hier noch? Die Tasche hier? That must be a bag of Miss Green's personal belongings. She would have been brought directly here after she was found stabbed on the pavement though. I expect a friend or family member probably brought some things for her. Alright then, let's see what's inside. A change of clothes no doubt, and... No, Mr. Naruhodo, you must never scrutinize a young maiden's personal belongings. But the young maiden might have chocolates, or biscuits, or caramel. Hier ist eine Ratte. Eek! A mouse, Mr. Naruhodo! An enormous mouse! Vermin in a hospital. That doesn't seem the best. Oder es ist eine Maus, keine Ratte. Okay. But it looks like a very healthy specimen, doesn't it? It's very plump. I'm not sure we can say that it's down to the excellence of this facility. And if that's what you were thinking. Was ist das hier? Ah, this looks like the treatment note for whoever's occupying this bed. Let's see. Do not permit to run around the hospital. The patient doesn't seem to be here at the moment, so he or she is probably running around the hospital then. Oh dear, how worrying. What's worrying is why they haven't discharged the patient yet. Und hier oben noch der Schrank. There are all sorts of medicines in this cabinet. Look, I'm not sure if it's safe leaving them in reach of everyone like this. Yes, you're right. I can imagine if you're peckish, you might try a whole bottle or two. Well, at least there seems to be a little lock to secure the cabinet doors. Was ist peckish? Frech oder mutig? Oder keins von beiden? Peckish. Hungrig, ach so. Okay. I don't imagine that would stop you if you were hungry. I worry that you'd break the lock. Hunger doesn't turn me into a criminal, you know, Mr. Sato? Oh Mann. Okay. Dann... Ja, haben wir glaube ich alles. Dann sprechen wir mal mit ihr.